We've got co-host today, attorney Caree Harper, and we are talking judges.
Hey, good morning again, Dominique. Caree Harper, civil rights attorney, and we have Tiffany Blacknell, dynamic defense attorney, on the other line too. The next race up is Superior Court Judge seat 80, and the two candidates there are, they both bring a different type of experience to the bench. The first one is David Berger, who has run for judge a couple of times, and he's a DA with the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. The second is Clint McKay, who is an arbitrator. He an administrative law judge. He's had private practice under his belt, and he's been a temporary judge in Inglewood and a couple of other cities. So he has a wealth of experience. So I personally, in running and into these gentlemen at various campaign events, I was personally torn between them because they're both very likable and nice guys. You want to see more folks who aren't DAs, but David Berger has always been fair in court and a good guy. And but then you have Clint McKay with this other experience, and he's already done some of the work that a judge would do. So I'm going to bounce this off to Tiffany, who's worked closely with Dave Berger.
Yeah, unlike most candidates on the ballot, I actually have some experience with David. I endorsed him in the first run for DA. I was a defender in a court with David for almost 2 years. So, which means all of my cases were basically his cases as well, and I had an opportunity to interact with him in a more substantial way than I have most candidates. And while I think that the DA's office is obviously problematic, I found David to always be open-minded. And when I interacted with him, as a defense attorney, so oftentimes you talk to DAs, and they're openly disrespectful of your client. They make comments about them in a very negative and oftentimes, thinly veiled racist way. David doesn't have that temperament. David is someone who has always been a gentleman in terms of how he regards both defense counsel and clients. And even when we disagreed, we did so respectfully. And we often did. And I found that he was open-minded to the point where you could come up with creative dispositions. So if a client has particular needs, mental health issues, or addiction issues, he was willing.
So it's it's David Berger for C80. Yes.
Yes, David Berger.
Okay. So
sounds like you're in agreement, and that's important because we would not necessarily pick him because it says DA.
Right. There are a lot of folks who say I can't vote for a DA. I just won't do it. Well, you know what? I'd rather have a fair-minded, honorable deputy district attorney than a racist, dishonest, non-deputy district attorney, which leads me to seat 162. And in that race, my former seat is David Diamond, who's a private practitioner running against Scott Andrew Yang. Scott Andrew Yang is the DA in that race, and he's an immigrant, and he had a very meager upbringing, and he's worked his way up through civil law practice. He knows what it's like to be racially profiled and pulled over illegally, and he has empathy. Whereas with Diamond, although he may be a defense attorney, family law practitioner, depending on what day of the week it is, he changes his stance. You want somebody who's fair and honest. And in my opinion, it's a clear-cut choice for Scott Andrew Yang. And there's some pundits out there and bloggers who might endorse David Diamond, but that's the wrong choice. And if you can't bring yourself to vote for a DA, feel free to write my name in, but just don't vote for a pathological liar, in my opinion. And
I remember some of the crazy shenanigans that he did in the last race. There's just no way, knowing what I know and having tracked that race, that I would vote for David Diamond. Sorry.
Well, you can just, he says he's endorsed by LAPD, and they did not endorse him. They just issued a statement saying, no, we didn't endorse him. And
they don't even endorse candidates for judge, so that's crazy to say that.
And he says he's a Burbank commissioner. And I think that's meant to trick some of our brothers and sisters from the East Coast who, like Bratton, you remember Bratton was a commissioner, and so that sounds official, but really he went to a meeting every month or every other month, and that's not really anything. And now he's wanting to say he's a volunteer with Black Lives Matter, and that's untrue as well. So whatever day of the week, if it's an endorsement meeting in front of Stonewall, which is a LGBT group, he's the best LGBT person. If it's in front of MABA, which is a Mexican Bar Association, then he's Latino. He's a chameleon, and stay away from that guy. So seat 162, in my opinion, is for Scott Andrew Yang. What do you think, Tiffany?
Yeah,
I agree. I've had a case with Scott Yang, and he, again, his temperament was also very professional and always polite. No, he's an affable guy. He's not someone. You have judges who yell, who disparage, who are aggressive, and I never found that to be true about Mr. Yang. And so I have a good professional relationship with him. I mean, clearly I voted for Caree in the primary. She's my first choice, but
thank you.
Yang was definitely my second choice. And for me, the reasons that you guys mentioned, which were the deception. I don't take lightly his conduct during the primary. You know, the thinly veiled kind of aggressive comments that he made against Caree, I think, are problematic for me. You know, calling Black women aggressive for being standing up for their clients, to me, is a thinly veiled racist remark. And so the shenanigans with the designation, family law attorney, defense attorney, professor, commissioner, you just don't know who or what he is. And that to me is troubling, because you should have a sense of who the judges are who are running. And unfortunately, we don't have a sense of who he actually is. So I'm concerned about that.
I have a sense of who he is. He's a pathological. The thing is that if you are willing to do anything to get to a position of trust, what will you do when you get that position? Trumpian-like tactics are not, to me, running for judge is a higher standard than running for any other political office. Seriously. Mm-hmm. They have canons and rules and things that you can say as judge. You can't endorse, as a candidate for judge, you can't endorse in any other race. You can't put your finger on the scale. You're supposed to call the balls and strikes and be as balanced and fair as possible. So if you're willing to deceive and lie and do all these things before you get there, God, heaven help us when you get there if you make it. So it's a clear choice for me for seat 162, Scott Yang. And just recapping, coming to the end of the hour, we all unanimously agree on seat 72 for Mariana Dellinger, seat 80 for David Berger, and seat 162, Scott Andrew Yang. Anything else that I'm missing, folks?
No, I think, I wish we had more time, but it's ironic that we're doing this as Amy Coney Barrett is being jammed through the Senate. And also, so much talk has been given about Trumpian tactics today and dishonest judges, and the idea that our president, who lies so much and is so aggressive himself, is appointing all of these judges. It just chills my bones.
It's sickening. He's getting 3 out of the 9 Supreme Court judges, Dominique, and these folks are in their 40s and 50s. I mean, they're changing a whole generation. And if this isn't reason for folks to get out and vote, I don't know what else is, because those things that you don't think of every day are going to be changed. And judges that we talked about today, local judges, are so important because they're the trial court judges. Depending on what they let in, the evidence they let in, the Amy Coney Barrett, they won't get that evidence. It's the trial judges that set the tone for the cases that go to the Supreme Court. So if a trial judge doesn't let certain evidence in, the appellate court doesn't even hear it, because it bases what it does on the evidence that was admitted. And it's not the stuff that happened, it's the evidence that was admitted at trial.
You know what, we only have a couple of minutes left, but I wonder if either Tiffany or Attorney Harper, if you would quickly comment on court packing, since it's been such a big controversy.
Oh, my God.
You know what? I'm not...
If people...
Tiffany's... Go ahead.
If people understood the importance of the appellate court we've had over 2,000 wrongful convictions in this country in the last 25 years. And people are on death row who rely on the appellate court to review the evidence and to honestly consider them. Donald Trump has packed the court with almost 200 judges across the nation, right? 200 judges. And of all the appellate court judges, I think over 50 have been nominated. None of them are black.
Right.
None of them are black.
I'm wondering,
literally changing the course of history
about the
with
Supreme Court, Dominique? Because I think that's what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is being.
Yeah, but I think both. It's a relevant point. Do you want to add on to it real quick?
I do, and I hate in my heart. I think I like the number 9. I think it should stay there since it's been there for 150 years. But you know what? I'm tired of being a pushover for the Republican agenda. If Biden wins and this lady gets in, Judge Barrett gets in, then have at it, Biden. Add some more liberals to the bench, because we just can't take a 6-3 court with 6 very conservative younger judges and 3 folks who are fighting for freedom and liberties. These are different times, so now I have a different answer than I would have last year. I agree. If Joe Biden gets in, do what you got to do to balance the court.
Or at least put some term limits on them. Come on now. They don't have to die in office.
Yeah, they shouldn't get a lifetime appointment.
About 12 years, I think.
Yeah, and they shouldn't need an impeachment to get them out when they're bad actors. We've seen some bad actors, so.
Well, Attorney Caree Harper and Attorney Tiffany Blacknell, thank you guys so much for helping us unpack the judges today.
No,
thanks for having me.